Welcome back to the channel. We're here at the range today, and we're going to go ahead and play around with DRS a little bit. I know that I told you guys we'd have a video coming out here pretty soon, and I kind of wanted to wait till I got my last part finished up. I got the mag holder made down here. I'll show you that in a second. And I was working on making a custom weight for the front out of brass, but first piece I got almost all the way done with it, and then the bit in and kind of ruined it, and then decided to try my luck again, and second shot ended up breaking the mill. So about 50% done with the second one, so hopefully I'll have it done here pretty soon and be able to show you what it looks like and what I've done. But this gun's definitely not going to be for most shooters, just due to the weight. I like a lot of weight on these guns. I like to be able to sit there. Like, balance points are pretty nice. Like, this thing balances really good as it sits, especially with this 2.5 pound bipod. This up front is also weighted as well. But the weight that I like to put up front, like, you know, it holds the gun very still. It takes a lot of the user error out of it. So your heartbeat disappears. You know, there's just so much you can get rid of with a very weighted gun. And then on top of that, you don't have to shoulder it either. I know on lighter guns, what you want to do, you want to be able to bed that gun into your shoulder, you know, so once you pull the trigger, that tiny little window from the time that you pull the trigger to the time the projectile exits the barrel, that little movement will cause big groups if you're not, you know, if you don't know what you're doing. And even if you do, you know, it's kind of hard to overcompensate for that little bit of recoil that happens when that projectile is leaving the barrel. You wouldn't think it's much, but I mean, a millisecond makes a big difference, and you can really see it. I could do a video with this thing, and I could show you pretty easy what the difference is between adding weight and not adding weight, and shouldering and not shouldering. But I'm not too worried. Figured just talking about it's funny enough. But this here's the mag holder I made. It's pretty cool. This is a piece of aluminum here, and this is just a little cover that I made. Put a little thumb knob on there, but it's got a stud and a Neridium magnet, and the mag just slides right out. So if I can keep it in there, that's just JB Weld. So pretty cool. Some of the stuff you can do with you know, basic hardware stuff. Now I'll use JB Weld and use some tape and some WD-40 as a release agent, and you can mold a lot of stuff. It might not be cost effective depending on how big a part you're wanting to make, man. You know, but you can make some pretty neat little stuff. But we do have the Apex 3x15 Hunter on this thing, along with the trigger cam. So we'll do a little recording while we're at it. I will speak a little bit of some of the stuff we ran into. As you can tell, I still haven't put my gauge on there. Really haven't had time, but to degas these it's not like the normal guns. It's pretty easy. I watched one video where the guy unthreaded this gauge a little bit and slowly bled it off. I really don't like that. I wish there was a different way to bleed these guns, but I haven't found it yet. And it seems any video that I've seen, well, not that I've seen, but a buddy has watched, because he already did his, just haven't seen nothing easier, and that's how he did his. Now the funny thing was that whenever he put his gauges on down here, is he had this whole block out whenever he degassed it, and then he put his gauge down here on the bottom, and then when he got the gun all gassed back up and made sure nothing leaked, he goes to put the action back in the chassis, and now you have a gauge sticking out that far, so he had to completely redo it. So if you get one of these and you do that, I mean, I like to say it's you know, it's just one of them things that slips your mind when you got pieces sitting on a workbench and you're used to taking stuff apart and putting it back together. Now on this gun also, you see a lot of people taking these out to tune them, and you really don't have to. This screw down here for your hammer spring, once you break it free, it moves really easy, and also your regulator, you can access it down through here, so you don't have to take it out of the chassis if you don't want to. It might be easier for some people, but it's not necessary. The amount of tuning, the amount of adjustment you're going to be doing on it, it's not like you're taking a regulator out. You're doing massive adjustments, like you're doing tiny little increments, and you know, with a probably a 5 to 6 inch Allen key, you can get in there pretty easy. So I wouldn't worry about it. And once you break this nut free, it starts spinning pretty freely. And once you do adjust this and you get this thing set semi close to where you think you're going to be, what I did was just put a little dab of Loctite, you know, on the back side of the screw, and just kind of let it seep into the threads a little bit, and then dried up the rest with a paper towel. So, and then you can take it out and you can fine tune it. But you know, once you get this nut really loose, it can walk on you. I mean, these things vibrate quite a bit, pretty much any air gun. So you run that risk. So last time I took this thing out and I got it shooting good, I went ahead and just stopped shooting until I got that Loctite. That way I can come back out today and, you know, see if everything held up just fine. Now I will say, I don't like to admit this kind of stuff, but I like to be completely honest when I'm doing these videos. I don't like to do any kind of bias or favoritism or act like stuff don't have them, because it absolutely does. It don't matter what it is, whether it's cheap, whether it's expensive, you can have issues, and this thing did start leaking. It's a very, very small leak. It's coming right out of a little hole right in here. And it's just one of them things, you know, you're working, you know, people like to complain about these guns leaking, but what they fail to realize is the amount of pressure these are under. I mean, they're not typical Springer rifles. They're not, you know, old school PCP air guns. I mean, this thing's holding, what, 4,500 PSI, so it's under extreme pressure. So at any given time, you can have an O-ring leak. You know, so if you get into this stuff, you may not be into it yet, but if you get into this stuff, you know, you gotta have that mentality where you know that eventually you're gonna have to take these things apart. And they're not complicated. You know, the biggest thing you gotta worry about is making sure you degas these things. You degas them, you know, when you make them safe. You know, they're pretty easy to work on. You know, you pretty much have O-rings. You have some specialty tools like dental picks, or maybe some, you know, weird little hook things, you know, on the end of a, you know, little rod, you know, where you got to get some of these O-rings out. But they're pretty easy to work on. You may need to get a magnifying glass, you know, that kind of desktop, so you can work, you know, because some of these things are kind of small where you got to put them in the holes. You know, or if your eyesight's going bad, you know, you might struggle for a little bit. So, you know, a nice magnifying glass with a light in it does wonders. I know I got pretty good vision, and you know, some of that stuff, you know, just makes you go cross-eyed when you start jacking with it. But you know, for the most part, it's easy. I just wanted to get that stuff out of the way, and kind of bring up, you know, what we got going on now. I will say, after shooting this, the shot counts that I'm getting, I'm sure most everybody wonders about shot count. And so far I'm getting about 12 shots before I start dropping off the rig. Now this, as I mentioned in my last video, it doesn't have the carbon fiber on it, and I really wish I would hear an update or get an update on it, whether it's even going to be available, because I bought this rifle with the intention, you know, of it already having it, you know, or if it didn't, it would be available, and it's definitely not. And running on a, you know, 230 bar fill is, you know, not ideal in my opinion, especially for a competition rig where stages now are getting very, very big. For typical NRL stages, you know, you might be fine. You know, with most of them anywhere from 8 to 10 usually, with the occasional 12, unless you get a bonus stage where it's, you know, more than that. But I can tell you, once you drop off the rig, you know, you know, you're going to start having issues, and that may be one of those instances, you know, where you may want to carry a small little bottle, you know, just to do a quick fill, you know. But if you're on the PRS side, you ain't going to have time to do that. You know, some of those stages, I've shot stages that were 22 rounds, and this gun would not work in that scenario, especially when you're given a 1:45 timer. I mean, you just don't have time. Like, you can send slugs as fast as you want, but you're gonna run out of time when you got to fill. So that's another thing you got to think about. You know, what kind of shooting are you going to do? If you're going to shoot the NRL side, you know, with certain stages, or you're going to shoot the PRS side with different stages, and you know that's gonna dictate what size slugs you're shooting, you know, and what velocity. I know that me running 40s or 33s, I know my shot count. The shot count is pretty much the same between them, whether I'm running 1,000 feet per second on this one or I'm running 940 on this one. And I can switch back and forth pretty easy. Now I haven't shot for groups between the two. I know what I shot for groups in this tune on the last one, so it may require tuning if you're switching back and forth. But I mean, ultimately, if you're shooting heavy round stages, you may need to drop down, you know, to an even lighter grain slug, which may put you at a pretty heavy disadvantage when it comes to a little lizard. You may have to change to a lighter slug, you know, much lighter slug, which may put you at a much higher disadvantage when it comes to wind, you know, and you know, just trying to get some speed out of it as well, you know, just to try and up your shot count. So that's another thing to think about. But anyways, I got that all discussed. I think I hit on just about everything I wanted to hit on. Like I said, I like to be honest with any videos. So anyways, we're gonna get this thing out, and let me get some targets set up real quick, and I'll get the trigger cam turned on and get all resituated, and we'll get some shooting in and see how it goes. We got the target down there. We're gonna shoot a few 5-shot groups at. We also got some metal hangers that we will engage off this sawhorse. I went ahead and shot this a couple times and made sure to get it dialed in, because I am shooting a different grain of slug than what I was tuning this gun at last time. I ended up leaving those slugs on the kitchen counter when I was rushing out the door getting loaded up. So we're all dialed in now. Should be plenty close enough, and we will shoot a couple groups and see what happens. I'll be honest. That's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive. I'm glad I didn't miss that one when I was recording. But let's go ahead and take another 5-shot group, and we'll see what happens. And then we'll do a little talking while we're getting ready for the to shoot off the sawhorse. I don't hate it. Had one little flyer on that one. I don't like flyers, but I will take those 2 groups any day. Let me shut this off. I'll run down and grab that target real quick. We're gonna try this one last time before I give up. First time I shot these and recorded, the battery died on the trigger cam. Next time I plugged in the battery charger, phone overheated. Time after that, phone overheated. This time I caught it, so now we're in the shade, and hopefully I got enough charge on trigger cam to make it to at least record one of these. But now I'm down to my last 12 rounds, so I don't have anything else to go on. So apologize for this is going to be kind of a waste if you're wanting to see me shooting much or seeing how it handles. But in that regard, let's try and get a stage out of the way. Turn the thing back on. The beep. Recording, and time starts now. That's it.